Well, hot damn. Should I ask what the story is to all this? Thorn muses aloud, as he steps aboard the Quipchap. Simone stands herself up from her crate, grunting a bit from the effort. Not much to tell. Shot our engines out, boarded, and didn't live to tell the tale, she replies, as she moves up to give him a firm hug. I'll bet. Sorry it took us time to head on over here. Happened to catch us in the middle of a job. The kind that we couldn't easily step away from, the man says, as he pats Simone's back with both hands. I get it, cowboy. Thankfully no one else has come by. Thanks for the tow, the redhead says, before giving the old man a last squeeze before pulling away to see the 3 other numbskulls make their way in carrying boxes. What have we got here? Tools, Devin notifies plainly before setting his box down. 4? What? Don't try to tell me you're going to try to fix our ship up yourselves, Simone gestured. Course not, but if there's minor patches needed, then might as well prepare for it, Devin shrugged, before giving Simone a nod of greeting. Hey, you cut your hair, Brandy calls out as she lowers her box down by Devin's. The red hair scratched at the back of her head. Not my choice, but yup, she responds with a chuckle. Come here, big gal, Brandy added, as she opened her arms and gave the muscular woman a side-to-side rocking embrace. Before Simone can say anything more, another Terran practically crashes into her side to join in. There's our champion, seducer of alien princesses. Troy cheers. The redhead winces and staggers, not quite at her physical norm yet. Careful there, buckaroo. Good to see you too, she smirked, before shaking herself free for the 2 former crewmates. You're all welcome aboard. If you want something a bit better than nutrition rations, we got grub in the kitchens, but just the pre-made stuff, because our chef is currently out of commission. I'll just ask you all to mind yourselves, alright? We have a few more security staff, so I don't mind y'all roaming a bit. You heard her. Keep the rambunctious tone down, Thorn says, as he looks directly at Troy. The younger man rolls his eyes and crosses his arms, knowing that message was for him alone. Yeah, he grumbles, before immediately perking back up. So, where's the lucky royalty now? Haven't crushed her yet, have you? Troy! Brandy barks scoldingly. What? It's a fair question, jeez, the young man defends. For crying out loud, no it's not, Brandy argues, while pressing a finger into Troy's chest. Ow, is everything alright? A Callie's voice asks from above. The 5 Terrans within the cargo bay look up to see the princess beginning to descend the steps towards them. Well, howdy, Thorn replied, while shaking his head at his subordinates. Oh, how do I what? Chuck inquires. Do you need assistance? It takes a moment for the Callie's response to catch up within the older man's head. When it does, he drops his gaze to the ground and chuckles once more. Ain't nothing. Glad to be of service. We've already lashed our ship on, and Devin here is going to make double sure your ship doesn't rattle apart while in FTL. Thorn carried on. That is very much appreciated, Chuck chirps, as she makes it to the bottom of the steps. Well now, you seem to be a bit more bold since our first meeting. You ain't trembling in your boots, should I say hooves? Thorn moments, as he comes up to the Callie, his gleaming cyan eye looking over the bug goat curiously. Ow, well the circumstances of our initial meeting did have me in a bit of a state, and you left so quickly, I really didn't get the proper chance to introduce myself. Greetings, I am Chocolatable Princess of the Callie people, she responds with a polite bow, which exposes a smaller creature nestled in a lowered hood. Pleasure, I'm Thorn, and these are my bands of idiots. Over there is Brandy, she is the closest thing we got to a medical practitioner. Then there's Troy, more frilled than brain in that one, but he knows how to lay a Thagmore back on his ass with his bare hands, so we tolerate him. And Devin, man has a thing for tech. Brightest of us all, just forgive him if he comes across as a little cold. Means well, just the way he is, the older Terran points out. I welcome you all. I very much can't wait to get to know each and every one of you better, Chuck replies with a bounce before looking to Simone. Have you had a chance to share the news? News? Simone utters, unsure of what Chuck means. I mean, a whole hell of a lot has happened since the last time, and they just got here. Chuck's eyes flash as she bounces again. Oh, then I will do the honors. Simone and I are betrothed, she declares excitedly. Processing that, all eyes zip to the redhead, who is staring out into space in horror, face redder than sin. Right. That, she whispers. Excuse me, what? No way, Simone? Hitched? Troy speaks out in disbelief. For once, I agree with the numbskull. I just don't believe it, Brandy says with wide, surprised eyes. Damn, Devin inputs with a lifted eye tuft. Thorn crosses his arms, giving Simone a knowing glance. Couldn't resist saying yes, eh? He muses. Actually, she asked me, Chuck corrects. What? Troy and Brandy call out almost simultaneously. Looking away to avoid all the intense stare, Simone scratched the back of her head nervously and scuffed the heel of her boot on the floor. Yeah, she mumbles in confirmation. An awkward silence passes before Chuck attempts to remedy the situation she caused. And this is our adopted child. Their name is SJ, she announces while scooping the wataf out from her hood and into her cradling arms. SJ looks to all the new faces with caution, wavering hisses in uncertainty. However, all this does is bring an even longer, intense silence. I'm an uncle? Troy bellows in shock and excitement, before Brandy thwaps the back of his head. And that's pretty much all that has happened up to this point, Simone explains to Thorn, while they sit alone together in the mess hall. Throughout the harrowing tales of worm space zombies, Terran cultists, potential caddy plans of war, and a mysterious genetic manipulating race of bat people hell-bent on invading the galaxy as a whole at any opportune moment, Thorn simply sat there silently, taking it all in, and allowing Simone to go on tangent after tangent to get the full picture. After Simone finally ran out of words to say, he nods and removes one of his gloves, exposing a dark metallic hand. Reaching out with it, he takes her hand from across the table. Kid, how the hell are you still sane? He says with a sincere apologetic smile. If I had known, I wouldn't have dropped you when I did. I'm sorry. Simone hushed for her nose, blinking back already wet eyes. Nothing to be sorry about. You did what was best for all of us at the time, and it was the wake-up I probably needed. Believe it or not, I'm happy here. Could do without all the bullshit, but it's worth being here. These are my people, my family. For once in my life, I can be proud of who I am. Like, genuinely. That's how I'm sane, she replies, as she squeezes the metal hand. Still, can't be good for your health. How many times have you ended up in that med base and stepping on this ship? Thorn asks. A lot, and maybe a lot more. But I'm fine with that. If it means I wake up to see everyone else is alright, it's worth it. That's my job, after all. Simone answers with a shrug. Thorn pulls his hand away and begins to remove his long coat. Under it is a thin black shirt covering an upper body that has no skin. All of his body between his neckline and gut is completely replaced by mechanical parts. It's nothing Simone hasn't seen before, but whatever the old man was getting at has captured her curiosity. I ever tell you how I ended up like this? He inquires, already knowing the answer. At least 4,000 times that got gradually more unbelievable, yes, Simone chuckles. Well, here's the truth of it. Back in the days where I served in the Union, I was shot down while in a transport shuttle. Shouldn't have survived, but my stubborn ass decided it wasn't my time, he explained. Why are you telling me this again? Simone asks, not quite understanding. Well, what I never told you was that I already lost an arm and leg before boarding that shuttle. Plasma water, and by boarding I mean I took it, he says, while crossing his arms. This catches Simone's attention even more, having not heard this version of events yet. Why? Because my unit needed extraction, and I was told they weren't going to be able to get it. Too hot of a zone, everything and anything in the sky was being blasted to ash. Bigwigs were working out a counteroffensive to get a land route to my unit, but it was known that it would take far too long. I could see it in their eyes. Thorn looks down to his hands resting on the dumb surface, waving the fingers in a smooth, flowing motion. Being the young and dumb bastard I was, as soon as they made sure I wasn't going to kick the bucket, I bolted, threw the pilot out, and raced on the suicide rescue mission. It wasn't long before I became a fireball crashing back to the ground in hilarious fashion. I was damn lucky to have been close to one of our forward operating bases. Best part? Most of my unit survived. The coy bastards ducked into an underground cave system just before their position was turned into a massive blackened field. So not only did I get blown to pieces for nothing, but after I pulled my stubborn miracle, I was locked up. For quite a while. Never saw any of my unit again. There wasn't any way you could have known. You had to do something. Simone tries to reason in comfort. See, that's exactly what I told myself for the longest time. But Thatch, listen good. Sometimes what you have to do is place your trust in those you want to protect. They ain't helpless. I know how you feel, as though you need to physically do everything in your power to help. But sometimes the cost to you is far too much. And in trying to do what you think is right, you end up destroying the future you're fighting for. It's not an easy call to make, and it may feel like you're doing nothing, but trusting is something. I don't want you looking like me, the man finishes. Says the man with an arsenal of Inspector Gadget-grade weaponry in his own arms, Simone counters, though the man's story certainly left an impression. Like I said, I got lucky. Less than a 2% chance of survival, they told me. But those aren't odds I want you toying with, you hear me? Simone purses her lips and nods. I hear you, she says. Good. But if you do decide to do the stupid thing anyway... Thorn leans in closer. Make it count. He winks. You bet, Simone chuckles, before raising her drink of water in a promising toast. Alrighty. So, with all that out of the way, how can we help you stop the entire galaxy from catching fire? He asks nonchalantly. Good question. You sure you even want to be brought into all of this? Simone replies. Quite frankly, everything else on the to-do list seems a bit pointless by comparison. So yeah, we're in, Thorn affirms. Simone releases a long, thoughtful breath. Awesome. Well, I think there's a better discussion to have with Chak. She is better with the grand plan stuff. But for now, your ship has a lot of big guns on it, and we just proved that our ship by itself can't do all that much in an ambush, Simone implies. You want us to play deterrent? Sure, I think we can do that. Thorn agrees with a heavy pat on the back of Simone's shoulder. Ah, speaking of your little princess, if you thought for a damn microsecond that you'd avoid Brandy throwing you a bachelorette thing, you thought wrong. I know. Devin, was it? Vin addresses the Terran, who stood on a moved crate, had his upper half concealed in a ceiling panel. Yup, the muffled voice responds. Sincerest apologies for bothering your important work. I know you're already in the midst of giving us your specialized services, but I do have an additional inquiry regarding your capabilities, Vin says, his nerves barely stifled. I can do a lot of things. Fixing this hunk of redundant junk is the priority, though. Is it vital? Devin responds, right before a power tool erupts in a loud echoing roar for a straight 10 standard seconds. Taking a step back as his ear flaps thrash at the sudden sound, Vin still remains to ask for certain services. Indeed. Are you proficient by chance in repairing automatons? He says as he massages his ear flaps. Devin seems to pause in his work, either from consideration or annoyance. Yeah, I was a three-time Universal Champion in Android War at the age of 10, before I was disbarred from entering again. But I don't see how a broken body's vital. Is it one of the medbay ones? Devin says, before continuing to blare his tool usage. This time the Noxie didn't wait for the sounds to stop. No. You see, I'm the legal guardian of an Awoken, and they... Vin is interrupted by Devin halting and peeking down to look at the Noxie directly. I don't operate on Awoken, he informs sternly. Why not? Vin asks. Because I'm not like a doctor who can do surgery. I don't like the idea of someone dying while I work on them. Sorry. Devin replies plainly, before sticking his upper torso back up into the ceiling. I assume most doctors don't like people dying under their care either, Vin points out. You know what I meant, Devin dismisses. Please, reconsider, Devin. I doubt I will come across anything with your skill and respect for Awoken life. I only want what's best for someone that I consider my own child. They will not require any sort of weaponry or anything too complex. I have funds to pay you with as well, Vin implores. Devin's annoyed, muffled sigh rings out before he is overwhelmed by his tool in short, measured bursts. Vin starts to believe that he is being blown off. However, Devin lowers himself one last time. Give me 10 minutes to wrap this up. I'll give him a look and see what I can do. No promises, he says in a softer tone that lacks his usual bite. Haha, you guys are awesome at this, Troy shouts, after Miki snatches the thrown, inflated, prolate spheroid-shaped ball from the air in a dexterous side flip. Much fun, Miki agrees, holding the Terran's ball with both hands up in the air excitedly. Jumping a bit on the smooth but stained floor of the massive cargo bay in the new Terran's vessel. Right. Now you gotta slam it into the ground and yell touchdown, alright? Troy instructed. Miki quickly nodded and dropped face first towards the floor, hammering the ball into it while still holding on. Slumping to the ground, she cackles in her native chitters. Touching down, she shouts, almost forgetting that requirement. Almost. I mean, you throw it to the ground. My bad. But hey, you do you, Troy calls out, standing around 300 feet away. Miki gets back up to her feet with her hand against her chest. Dearest, please be careful. Your wounds have hardly healed, Mildred says, as they watch Miki check her previous injury. Apologies, love. You are right, but this catching game is so very fun. I'll try to not push myself too hard. But first, she replies, before reeling the ball back over her head and with all her Deathworlder might, casted it down at the floor. Touching, she shouts. The ball, with great veracity, bounded right back up like a missile, smacking under Nodrin's chin. Da! Miki managed to verbally release, before the ball completed its revenge by sipping from her bombmate to herself in a combo takedown. Nodrin stumbles back, massaging their chin in light annoyance, while Miki once again faceplants into the floor. Oh, shit, you good? Troy calls out, not even bothering to stifle his laugh. Dearest? Nodrin says, with a whip of their tail. By the spirits within us all, Nodrin, I plead for your loving forgiveness after such a terrible, misguided lapse of judgment on my part. My shame knows no end to its deepened void, and I cherish you more than I can ever express. Miki recites in a monotone voice, not even lifting her face from the floor. And? Nodrin pushes. And I plan to atone by tenderly massaging your back and tail, while feeding you snacks tonight before bed, Miki adds quickly. Nodrin chitters while squatting down to rustle their bombmate's head fur with one hand, or picking up the ball with the other. I hold nothing but forgiveness towards you, cherished. You absolutely lovely fool, they notify in a laugh, before standing straight again. Yo, you good? Troy repeats, a bit more seriously this time. Is good. You catch now, Nodrin says back. Hell yeah. Hit me with your best shot, Troy invites. Determined, Nodrin pulls the ball back, mimicking a similar pose as when Troy threw it. Grat had many sports with inflated animal hide balls like this one, but Nodrin was not the sort to participate. So they have no clue that the current grip on this particular ball is far too tight. Boom! Frozen in place and pupils dilated to their max, Nodrin now holds no ball within their grasp, though they certainly now have a loud ringing within their head. Oh, damn. Right. Claws. My bad. I'm sure I have a phone one lying around somewhere, Troy says, before turning back in the jog to retrieve said replacement. Looking up to seeing her bombmate as still as a statue, she begins pushing herself back up. Dearest, is everything all right? She inquires. I think so, Nodrin replies in a stilted manner. I believe my life just flashed before my very eyes, and I've realized something. Did that sound truly scare you so much? Miki says, as she places a hand on their back. What did you realize? Nodrin's arms drop and their head hangs slightly. Despite Third Mother Rita disapproving of my choice to leave with you, I have not one regret in my spirit. Not a single one, they explained. Iris is nearly expanding to the same level. Miki clutches herself against Nodrin, while silently weaving their tails together, rubbing her head against theirs, adoring this absolutely lovely fall. Do you believe paying Troy with Joy House for popping this ball is fair? Nodrin asks. Look at you, such a sweet little baby. Who's a Cupatuti? Brandy coos to the tough child in her hands. SJ squirms playfully, evading Brandy's attempts of nursing her nose to theirs. At least Chuck is fairly confident about it being a form of playfulness. SJ's hisses are low in tone, and they never open their mouth in any firm display of displeasure with the situation. Chuck has taken it upon herself to extensively study Wataf expressions and meanings, though the idea of their new Terran friend being bitten is still a big concern to her. Ah, who's a venomous little baby? You are, that's right, the Terran continues, sitting cross-legged in front of Chuck. Oh, so you are aware. Good, Chuck chirps in relief. Of course I am. Little deaf cuties like this are my favourite. So freaking cute, Brandy replies, still using her cooing tone. You are used to handling babies of other species? Chuck inquires. Repositioning SJ onto their back, she begins to scratch at their exposed scales, making the child stretch out in satisfaction. Yes, ma'am. Did a lot of charity work in refugee camps. Started out barely knowing how to use a stethoscope, and by the end I was delivering babies of every sort left and right. Even a few Terran ones. Wasn't never medically trained, but I grew up on a cow farm in York, so although it's not the same thing by far, ain't gonna compare a dillo to any cow, 'cause by the stars I wish it was as simple as a cow, but when charity staff ran dry, I was essentially the best, if not only option. I mean, I initially signed up to help lug around supplies, not actually be a Rambo nurse, the Terran explains. Oh, I see. What compelled you to serve in that charity? The Callie asks. Felt like the right thing to do. After going on a scholarship trip to a Central Galactic University, and seeing all the footage of people suffering from conflicts, I just had to, you know? Dropped everything and jumped on the first charity ship I could find, the woman says, as she smirks down at the sprawled out Wataf. You did so? Just like that? What of your family? Chuck points out. Brandy shrugs, her smirk turning to more of a sad smile. Home life wasn't all that great, hence why I worked so hard to get that scholarship to get out. These bozos are my family now, she says, tilting her head in the direction of the connected ship. Oh, I may relate in some way, I suppose. How did you end up as a bounty hunter? Chuck questions to hopefully change the mood. Well, turns out I picked up quite the skill set working that charity. I had to pick up a rifle on several occasions, bandage up every wound imaginable, track down people stealing more than their share of supplies, and even tinkered a bit to get things working long enough until we could get replacements. When the conflict started dying down, I worked odd jobs to get by. Eventually landed on a small station out in the Fairlex system. Not a lot of Deathworlders out there, so I quickly got a reputation of being the Deathworlder handy lady. You could call on to do just about anything. Then one day, the old cowboy came to town chasing a real piece of work. A people-trafficking bastard. And well, let's just say I didn't approve of their choice of business. Thorn took notice after I apprehended the bastard before he did, offered me a job, and it's been a real adventure since. Brandy elaborates, though her eyes turn sad once more. Except losing Jamie. Oh, I'm so sorry. A dear friend of yours? Chuck says. Sure was. Nicest Terran I've ever met. A real sweetheart. Loved the origami. A tear sneaks up on Brandy, causing her to quickly wipe away its trail. Still finds sneakily placed swans here and there. That cheeky ball of love. Thorn does his best, but it just isn't the same without our pilot. Okay, everybody, thanks for gathering here. I'm sure we're about to blow your minds, Troy says, as he stands before nearly everyone of the crews at the doorway between vessels. Where's Vin? Simone asks, looking around for the little green guy. He will be here, real soon. Like really soon, Troy answers with a big dumb smile. What are you up to now, Troy? Brandy interrogates, clearly suspicious of the man. Something epic, the young man reassures. Devin and I put our heads together and accomplished the impossible. It was very possible, and I did all the work, Devin corrected, as he walked into view from the bounty hunter ship. Nah, come on, man, I helped, Troy argues, turning on his heel. You sure did, Devin replied in a laced tone of exasperation. Well, don't keep us in suspense. What's this about? Chocknock speaks up. Right, it's my honor to present... Troy jumps to the side, with his hands cartoonishly showing off what's to come next. Vin comes within sight, stopping and waving over another unseen individual. Come on, Seven. Everyone can't wait to see you, he encourages. To which the entire Quipchap crew stands more at attention with great invested interest. Instead of the expected hovering emission sounds, is near silent rolling, akin to rollerblades. The bot that comes into view is just as familiar as they are surprising. 4 dexterous legs with rollers move the familiar body shape that has been patched and modified with extra plating. Their cranium still holds their 3 orange lights and the core, but with a modified method of attachment. Their arms are completely replaced by thinner appendages, and do not have the shielding plating of a security drone. But what catches everyone's eyes is the paint job. Hot rod red with incredibly well-painted neon blue flames. Perhaps pretty freaking sweet to some, but to many others, it's garish as all fuck. Ta-da! Troy announces proudly. Ow! Seven? You look, how are you feeling? Chuck asks, unsure of what to think, though she is glad to see Seven up and about again. The bot looks at their new arms, watching as the pair splits into 4 completely independent appendages. The power. I can now make so many any vegan pancakes.